Hi, this is Rob Charney, Old Guy Tech TV News 44, and I'm here today with Jonathan Charney, John Manichesic, and I'm Rob Charney, Old Guy. And you know what? Here we are on the reboot. We're back here alive. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We had to take off for a little while and do a few things, and that will happen from time to time, as you know. But we're back and we're streaming live, and hopefully you might consider giving us a call, talk about some of the subjects that you want to listen to or talk about. So that's 530-621-1210. The number is on the screen right in front of you. Give that a call if you find something really important to talk about or would just like to say hi. We'd love to hear from you. So last night, go ahead.
Do they still make you give up your belt and your shoelaces when you go into the facility? It was a bad joke.
That was real bad. It went boom. But anyway, last night, I don't know about you guys, last night was a long night for me. We were doing some things, and I came across this article in Facebook as I was just getting ready to go to sleep, and I was looking at it, and all of a sudden I look at this article and it says, "Be ready to evacuate." And it says, the federal government knew this on the day it took place, but it did not, and then it says, okay, push here to read more. And there's a map, and in this map it's basically New Mexico. And I'm looking at it, and there's this big red circle, and I'm going, holy cow, how is this not becoming a bigger issue? I mean, we got a radiation leak happening at the Rocky Flats storage facilities.
Wait, but so what is the... So explain to people what the storage facility is.
Okay, well, what happened is this particular location is a place where they made plutonium, triggers. These were the triggers that were made to set off the bombs. Okay, and they had been making these triggers there in this location since the very first bombs were ever made.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. So I kind of went, how is this not becoming a hot button issue? I mean, we have a situation, what's happening now, they've turned it into...
Whoa. Bomb switches in this place is how many gigantic below the surface abandoned salt mine where we've been storing our nuclear waste from reactors. And what they think happened is in the proverbial 55-gallon drum.
No.
I don't know. Anyway, they think a stalactite of salt fell on one and caused an alarm, to which we reacted and automated things were done, because where this happened is so deep and far away in the ground, they haven't gone there yet to look at it.
So the problem is that there was, as the information went on, because remember I said I started by looking at that last night, and all of a sudden I kind of said, okay, why isn't this a bigger story? And so as I started, the evening started going on, and some of my friends out there, Ann Geisman being one of them, I said, please, guys, help me vet this a little bit. Let me see what's really going on here. So with some help of some others, like you said, John, we got some more information. And what it really is the storage facilities in the salt flat areas in New Mexico. And you're right, they're not 100% certain what may have happened, but they believe there was a slight cave-in, and it may have made one of the barrels that are holding quantities of uranium, plutonium, whatever it may be.
Nasty stuff you don't want to
know. You don't want to know. Leak, and there was a release. So that part was true. There was a release. Now, as far as it going any further, there has not been another release since the initial. And like you said, John, there was a bunch of automatic things that kicked in once there was a detection of radiation, which is good to know that actually worked. So that's good. But, it's a bigger issue, and one that has been going on in Congress as a fight, because a little bit of pork barreling going on, of a site that we were building in the Nevada mountain ranges. Yucca Mountain, exactly. That we have spent billions of dollars building.
Billions and billions of dollars.
All this nuclear waste that's coming from all these plants. And to this day, and they've been working on it for almost 20 years, there's nothing stored there that's radioactive.
Sounds like the Bay Bridge.
Well,
So
but the theory is fission fusion would be worked out by now, and we wouldn't have a storage problem now.
Yeah,
Wasn't that
right.
the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea.
I am curious because I've seen them test the caskets they use to transport
Right.
these things, and they've thrown it off mountains, they've exploded them, and nothing leaks. My question is, why? How did one of these barrels, 8-gallon drums,
Because
leak?
they're not stored in those things that you're talking about. Those
What?
things are strictly for transport.
Seriously?
Yeah, there's a barrel that's sitting inside that unit.
So
Right.
it's-
Yeah.
well, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, okay, the point is you're right. Why are we still using 55-gallon drums? It's because that's the size we've been using since
For a long
1900s.
time.
Well, I mean, that's the
it.
size. The size is fine. What I'm talking
The
about,
oil is measured in 55-gallon drums.
what I'm saying is, you'd
Anyway.
think you would have a movie reference I don't get. You'd think you'd have some sort of.
None whatsoever.
Well, you'd think you would build a better 55-gallon drum, something besides the old metal and steel, which, if I remember correctly, uranium rots.
They
Oh,
do. They have a
the
special
whole
drum,
thing
but you're
is
right.
that we've never advanced our nuclear power technology past a level of the
70s.
80s, 70s.
So
yeah.
do you think now this
It
is
works.
the question is because do you think that's because of 3 Mile Island and the other stuff? Because allegedly in the works there's a
It
guy.
could also be that you have a situation in Fukushima, Japan, where they're now openly going China syndrome.
Because
Reactors burning through to the core of the earth because it was a combination of just bad everything, situation, engineering, and I mean, as unconscionable that this would be out of the. I mean, the fact that nobody's saying much about Fukushima. Occasionally, it surfaces. Is it here yet?
Yeah.
It's the nuclear crud here yet?
because I remember
Rather than, this thing is just totally out of control in Japan. I mean, Japan as a country probably has another 50 years to exist before this nuclear disaster does it in. And how many others with us. So what we pay attention to anymore, and I guess I'll start a return rant where I left off, is the fact that it is all about money now. It has nothing to do with doing the right thing.
oh, who was it?
It's short-term profit. Did we make money? And if we didn't make money in the short term, we can certainly cover it up in the short term.
Right.
That's the way we do things, and it has led to a level of mediocrity that is mind-boggling. So there.
Here
Yeah,
is
there you go.
Stop.
Now this section reminds me of a story I read about a couple of weeks ago, and I don't 100% remember the story, but Cheryl Atkinson resigns from CBS News because she said that she couldn't do the old-fashioned deep investigative journalists and
Well, you have to realize that with the advent of Comcast and Time Warner merging, that's a huge merge. It's all about the media. I mean, we in our little media world, and before we came on the air, we're talking about people that are generating a living from doing live stream broadcasting.
Now here, sorry, I was going to say here is the thing I was looking for, and this is from Politico, so take it or leave it. It says Atkinson, who has been with CBS News for 2 decades, had grown frustrated with what she saw as the network's liberal bias, an outsized influence by the network's corporate partners, and lack of dedication to investigative reporting, several sources said. So it sounds like she was being hamstrung by outside sources telling her, you don't really want to look into this.
I don't know, and what involvement she had with the Benghazi debacle with 60 Minutes there. All I'm coming around to that is if you take a step back and look at the whole package where I've worked and, I'm trying to go back to work again, it's all about the media. The media is the only one that makes any money on this deal, and the media is the one that feeds deep on politics, derision, Libya, Ukraine. I mean, they're the ones that drive the machine. I mean, how many days were we completely obsessed? And not that we shouldn't be looking for a plane that disappeared.
Right.
And we still, and the news. Oh, Look at that over there. Oh my God, Putin took the Ukraine.
We're still looking for Amelia Earhart.
And then let's go right back to searching for the airplane. If you guys spend any time watching CNN, I mean, it's, my God, 24-hour cycle, but it's 1 hour that's repeated every 24 hours.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I'm just waiting. They're getting all kinds of. But at the end of the day, be aware that the media is the message. The media is it now. When you look at where the dollar ends up, who's the gain, and you look at Rupert Murdoch, you look at it, it's all about the money, and it's all about the media.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
If you want to change politics, you got to take media.
Let's all hop in the Wayback Machine, hopping in the 1960s when both you guys had luscious locks of hairs and amazing music was playing. What was the media like back then?
It was very careful in what it did, and it was very dedicated to journalism. You didn't go without 4 sources.
Yeah, they really truly try to vet their stories before they would bring it out. Unlike what we have today, as an example, is what I was reading last night, and I went, "Holy crap! Why isn't this on the news?" There was an example of a story that was really not the right story or even the right location. But I thought it was very interesting. And then, let's not cover any of this stuff. Let's go back to look for the airplane. So we love a mystery. And in the old days, news was vetted. In other words, you didn't bring to your news manager and editor a story that you only got from one person. It didn't happen.
Or from Twitter.
Yeah, well, okay.
Right.
So,
or Rodman says it's North Korea's experimentation with the death ray.
Yeah.
You could have had somebody print that.
I think anybody who takes
I did say that.
I think anybody who takes Dennis Rodman's what he says as actual gospel news is probably a Gawker fan and is nuts.
The guy's making money off his.
Hey, the guy went back into rehab.
Yeah,
it's good business.
He needed.
Okay.
I give got to give the guy props, but somehow saying, hey, what he's saying is in North Korea, I'm not sure if I would take that as news.
It is strange, bedfellows. There's no doubt about it. Finish my story on this.
Who's probably banned, by the way, who's probably banned from North Korea for life.
Well, probably. But the point is, everybody, I brought up this story about the radiation leak. You probably didn't hear about it at all in your regular news, just so you know. That it took place in what's called the waste isolation pilot plant near Carlsbad, New Mexico, and that's where this leak happened. It's contained. There's been no more leaks, so we can move on. But if you did not hear about it, be aware of that. We do have a location where we're storing wastes. But
if you're planning a vacation in the Carlsbad Caverns. You may want to think twice about doing it.
You might be at the same level as radiation. I've been in Carlsbad Caverns, too.
I have, too. It's a great vacation location. It really is.
But just remember, there's a bunch of bad juju over there as well.
So make sure you bring your lead line beekeeper's outfit or something, and you'll be good.
That's right. Or at least, a lead line jockstrap.
The beat goes on and on and on for us, and what's hitting us in the ugly face again is internet taxes. The Congress and the states are once again bringing up, it's time we tax the internet.
Wait a minute, Netflix capitulated, didn't they? Didn't the whole thing go down the tubes with the initial corporate capitulation to blood money for higher bandwidth?
Well, yes. And net neutrality is another issue unto itself. We lost the fight on that, and that's going to be a conversation that us three will be having many times.
And don't forget, the United States is officially going to hand over control of the internet.
Yes, to
NITAS or something.
Some independent. It'll be a UN
Street in Boston or something like that.
It'll be a UN of internet, is what it's going to be.
Goodbye,
every little
internet.
country is going to have a little say as to what they can do.
Goodbye, sweet HTTP.
There is some.
It was good knowing you.
You bring up a good point, Jonathan. I mean, but I want us to cover this at a show where we really talk about what's going on and why the loss of net neutrality is so important to all our viewers and watchers.
By the way,
you've got to pay attention to something.
By the way, it's all your phone company's fault.
Yeah, it is.
Blame Verizon.
Well, blame them all.
You remember the movie from the 60s with James Coburn and the president's analyst? And it was all the phone company.
That's right.
It always has been the phone company.
It's always been the phone company. Well, they've got the copper. So no matter what,
it's all Ma Bell's fault.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that the internet taxes are back here to be here. California is stating the fact that on your California income tax returns, you are supposed to list how much money you spent online in buying from retailers online that did not charge you sales tax, and it is your responsibility to report that and pay that tax.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. I don't know anybody.
That will be the warrant. That will be the warrant for the unpaid tax. When
I buy everything from
on your door.
I buy everything
for your guns.
I buy everything from Amazon, so it's already. But
well, the taxes are already on Amazon.
I don't see. This is the thing that I even think when the UN takes over, this is a very weird situation. I don't think it's even possible. Could you keep track of how much stuff you buy on the internet? I don't know anybody who's able to do that.
Yeah, right. I keep every receipt. No, you're absolutely right, but I bet they do. Amazon can probably cough up your whole list. If you log on to Amazon, look at your account, click on purchases for 2013, it's all right there.
Yeah.
What Amazon doesn't have, Google does, so.
Yeah, I don't know. You having another earthquake there in Los Angeles?
No, that was something to wake up to the other morning after 25 years.
Did it feel like you were back home?
In Los Angeles, to have the room go screwy and the doors go kalak and go, I must be back in L.A.
I must be back. You know what?
It's Los Angeles saying, welcome home.
I loved it. I loved it. You know, it's so funny because I was watching, for some reason, I was watching the ABC affiliate in Los Angeles there. And the two reporters that were on the air obviously were not from California or Los Angeles because, you know, to John and I, a 4-point whatever it was, is just kind of a little rumble. I mean, it's nothing. These two, this guy, the poor guy was like scared to death. His eyeballs are wide. This is it. This is a big one. It's all coming down. I mean, he just became unrattled. I'm just sitting there rolling.
I love, as you know, this one hit. It had its intense moment. Then it backed off.
Right.
And then it had that moment after the earthquake of a little bit of. Bit of that.
Yeah.
And if you're experienced, you're going, is that going to stop? Because if that comes back another time, then we got trouble.
Yeah.
It's when there's one and then it kind of takes a lull and then there's another one. But as people said, the earthquake didn't move like a ripple.
Right.
When you have, it was centered 5 miles underneath Westwood and it was an upheaval earthquake. So but
and if you're going to have one, that's the one to have.
I was going to say, well, you know, if it was under Hollywood, it's the Rapture.
To them, you don't want to be there.
Yeah. What's that, John?
If it happens under Hollywood, it's the Rapture. I love my well,
anyway, whatever that has to do with internet sales taxes, I appreciate the story.
I was going to say, my favorite part about the news, the earthquake news, especially in people Los Angeles, when you see the clips from the people who are from Los Angeles, you know, the whole thing's moving and the guy's just like still drinking his coffee.
He's stirring his Starbucks. He's just stirring his Starbucks a little bit.
And if you were on the road, you didn't know it. And my friend that lives on the 16th floor downtown didn't even know it happened.
Yeah.
So
that was funny, but anyway, I'm serious on the tax situation. You know, we're back to the government wanting to make sure that we grab everything we can grab. And remember, the internet was built on the back of being able to purchase and buy from anywhere in the country, and you didn't worry about the sales taxes.
No, it was a free and open marketplace when. The eBay model first started, I was just thrilled out of my socks with this.
Right.
Because I had everybody in America available to me to buy something or sell something to. Now they've regulated that out of reasonable existence. So there you go.
I think what's going to happen is I think eventually the federal government is going to step in, and instead of being on the backs of taxpayers, which, by the way, I think telling taxpayers to keep track of their taxes, it's a tad bit ridiculous.
Well, the whole tax system is a tad bit ridiculous. Because the way it is built, all right, you look at the whole construct and you go, the way it is built is it wants you to avoid but not evade any taxation. In other words, the system has got loopholes and things built in it, and the law changes, which allows you to, the more money that you have, not pay taxes. And if you listen to Warren Buffett, if you listen to Warren Beatty, you hear some stories about sex. But if you listen to Warren Buffett, he said, no, we don't need a higher minimum wage. We need a larger earned income tax
credit.
Earned income tax credit. They're therefore giving it back. And a friend of mine the other day, and I've been rather quiet on Facebook, etc., offered, as we were talking about corporate taxation, said, well, the flat tax.
Here we go.
Problem with the flat tax is it's an ad valorem tax, and we've used it so many times and not called it what it is. I don't know that you don't have to tell everybody to stop and rethink ad valorem tax, because every state and local sales tax is a value-added ad valorem.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the European model where it's a VAT tax, and if you look at taxes, how many taxes we pay on everything, we probably pay the most taxes of any country in the world. Because think about this: you've got a tax on top of tax on top of tax. So you buy a good from somebody, right, who has either gotten out of the taxes or because he's a distributor, but he's going to sell it. And then he's going to sell it to you, and then you're going to pay the tax on that the first time. And then if you're in a position to sell that to somebody else, that person's supposed to pay the sales tax. Let's say it's as simple as buying a used car or a used vehicle, right? You buy a vehicle from an individual that bought that vehicle originally, and they paid the sales tax on it, right? Now you go and buy that vehicle from that person, and you go to DMV. What does DMV do? It taxes it again. It's taxed again. Lower rate, but still taxed. So there we are. It's taxed multiple times, and it can be taxed, who knows, a dozen times in its lifetime. You don't know. So every time you look at our tax structure, the way it is right now, we generally pay taxes multiple times on the same goods.
Yeah. Well, it's a licensing fee. In the case of your tax on your automobile, you have to license your car annually.
It's not a tax; it's a fee.
Yeah, it's a tax. Don't let them get away with
No, it's a fee. It's a fee. Come on.
But we went through this debate of fee tax about 10 years ago. And the net effect is, and I've mentioned this before, in Australia, if you've got an old car, an old Holden, a 50s, a 60s Holden, the tax is very high.
Yeah.
Classic cars, anything, I think 6 or 7 years, and then the tax goes up. Yeah. And the reason why is they want you to buy a new car.
There's Japan's like that way. I think like Japan, it's 2 years. They want you to buy a new car every 2 years.
If I remember correctly, it's 2 years or 35,000 miles.
I mean, yeah. It's in that number. I mean,
because what they do is they package JDM engines with 3,500 miles and send them over here.
We don't have a vehicle on an automobile on our property that's got under 120,000 miles.
Yeah,
I wouldn't own it.
Yeah.
It's a goddamn lemon if it won't take $1.50.
Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening, getting back to the internet tax, I think what they're going to do is they're going to pass some sort of law or mandate, or going to have, the Vic come over with a sledgehammer and tell people who do online sales that you're going to have to track the taxes. So if you're using Squarespace, Shopify, Amazon, name 1,000, even eBay, I think they're going to mandate whatever platform you're buying the thing from. They're going to mandate that platform keeps track of taxes, because telling individuals to do it, individuals are going to do what makes the most sense is. What?
For instance, many cities, even our county, El Dorado County, they have a tax that drives me crazy. They have a unsecured property tax. Okay.
It's a
What is
freaking joke.
unsecured property? That's like I have to report for Old Guy Tech TV for our LLCs all the equipment that we have here, and any equipment we buy in that given year has got to be reported to the county, and then the county taxes you on all that equipment that you've already paid taxes on.
To quote George Carlin, we're being serviced in El Dorado County.
I mean, well, no, we're not alone. But almost every county in California does the exact same thing.
So we're being
And
serviced in California.
It's supposed to be it's normal. You're not supposed to think anything about it. Where do we become a business-friendly state? Certainly doesn't look like we are to me. I think what you're trying to do is suck us dry because you want to tax and fee and license us to death to do it.
California's only is business-friendly as long as you follow all the rules. Unless you're a drug dealer, then you don't care.
Well, and if we legalize it here, we have issues about legal drug dealers and illegal drug dealers. The issue with it is my initial rant is all about the money. And I said this, made this statement to you a few weeks back, and you were suspect at the time. I said, it's funny when you say that government should run like business, and somebody says, well, they used to give you a 72-hour warning ticket in Sacramento if you left your trailer on the street not connected to a vehicle. And then all of a sudden they give you a $100 ticket and there are no more 72-hour warnings. Well, what you've said on so many different levels, we said to government, wanting smaller government, is we don't want you to... This is the argument of government is there to govern, not to make a profit. And when you expose for-profit models on government, which is a inherent, original, non-profit, say, but look, Social Security is losing money. They can't run a goddamn business. Excuse my French. These comments are made, but the fact of the matter is, when you ask government to run like a business, then it runs like a business.
Well, I think generally when people say
and
that...
they charge you a tax on all your inventory, whereas if you were a public utility, we were talking about the phone company,
right.
I used to account for equipment abandoned in place.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they say they want it to run like a business, they want it to run like a good business, not like Walmart. The problem is government has a tendency to be for government, so...
Well, the bureaucracy will do whatever it takes to maintain the bureaucracy.
Well, exactly.
But the fact of the matter is that the people and the mentality and the line of thought that we're producing out of and buying across the board is very much an MBA, my way of putting it, form of business which says pay me. Why is that sitting there for goodwill or for customer service when it's not generating a dollar for us? And we've had this conversation before where things that used to be things that were value added to incentivize you to do business with somebody are now things that value nothing. If I'm giving you a value, I want to be compensated for that value, and I'll give you nothing for nothing. Because even the nothing, and you get a second one free as long as you pay additional postage and handling. So it's no longer, we'll give you two for the price of one.
Right.
We'll give you two, but we'll have you pay the postage and handling.
So I wanted to talk about a little world news, if
let me just we'll want to finish it off because with the two issues that we're talking about here is something we're going to continue to talk about. I'm serious about net neutrality. The loss of that, I'm not going to give up hope, because as soon as you take away the advantage of free enterprise, free speech, and that everybody's equal on the internet, and you make it a pay for whatever, we all pay an internet service provider now, but now to get to the better content, if you want it, will be a paywall that you'll have to pay. So that's killing us on net neutrality. And now the sales tax situation is going to do nothing but disturb open sales on the internet.
Well, that's a big problem. The biggest problem I actually see is things like Comcast buying Time Warner. When
competition.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is the fact they're not allowed. Well, is the fact that the Federal Trade Commission and all that are just saying, no problem. It's just how they let Comcast buy Universal. And that was under Bush. So I think the problem is they're like
they let Universal buy NBC.
Yeah,
right.
When you talk about the fishies gobbling up the fishies.
Well,
See,
but
I
don't
think the
forget
problem-
who owned it before.
I
It was
think
GE.
GE.
I think
Yeah,
the problem
so-
is you no longer have the people, and like, when AT&T was broken up, you no longer have the people that have the cojones to say you're big enough. It's time
Let me ask you guys a question, something we didn't discuss at all, that I'm now getting messages for, and I have to do something about. And there's a fair number of us in this position. I still use XP.
Okay.
And XP is now no longer supported
It's bad juju now.
by
Microsoft.
Microsoft, who's offering you migration programs to the new PC. So the question is, are they going to stick to you in what is it, MS8 or whatever?
Windows 8, 8.1 is the current.
And have we found a way to reharvest the people that bought XP?
what's going to happen?
Such great options like Vista offered in between.
What's going to happen with that is Microsoft, and even security-wise, people need to move off XP because it's just not safe anymore. The benefit of Windows 8 is it runs a lot better on older hardware, unlike Vista, which I actually had to build a whole computer just to run Vista.
Well, there's still specs for minimum amount of equipment required.
But it's actually
for
not bad.
But they actually have multiple versions of Windows 8.
No, there's only two.
No, well,
There's professional and home.
and mobile.
And how much of your money do they want you to go from the XP that they stopped supporting to Windows 8?
Actually, it's only $100. It's
Yeah.
the cheapest Microsoft operating system ever. Well, here's the thing. I paid my last copy of Windows. My last copy.
When somebody said $100,
I would have fallen over
I
backwards.
paid
I know.
my copy of Windows 7 cost me $300. And you can get it as low as $70, $80 depending on where you buy it. That's actually not bad.
You know where the problem really lies with XP, and nobody's addressed this issue, is there is legacy equipment out there running factories and running big equipment and running things that are running on XP that there is no option at this point to rewrite those legacy software programs to work on the newer operating systems.
The question is
that's where the problem.
The question is that
not on your little PC.
Well, the question is that's embedded. Embedded hardware still gets support for quite a while longer, versus like mom and pa's computer. Embedded system on the chip stuff still has support.
It better, because my friend who works over for the Sacramento Municipal District, taking care of all the infrastructure going on there, all those computers that are built into those pieces of equipment run on XP.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, better, because this could be worse than the Millennium. Huh? Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually really easy to take down our electrical system, considering the stuff I've read easily. I've read recently.
The grid situation is a problem unto its own. I don't, but when John talks about XP,
two nickels placed unwisely could bring the whole thing down.
The U.S. government or electrical power?
Electrical power, and probably the U.S. government with it.
did you know? Here's a secret. Did you know that ISO stands for Independent Systems Operators? Those are the guys that distribute the electricity to everybody in the world. Well, our world anyway, has their own Black Ops law enforcement division.
Everybody has their own Black Ops law enforcement division.
I know this for a fact because I deal with them.
Everybody's got a
They need me for
goon
my
squad.
facilities. Yeah.
So
they are actually
power cops.
They're
Stop!
federal.
I'll unplug you.
They I don't think they call themselves special agents, but they have federal powers. They have federal powers, and if they don't like you,
Yeah, I'll unplug you.
they'll unplug you.
Stop! I'll unscrew your light bulb.
And then they'll plug you back in.
That's because you can't be off grid. How do you like that one? Now
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
the other one that you're
That
going to
came
get
up
arrested if you
weeks
go
ago.
off grid, right? You
gonna
generate your
arrest
own
you.
power. You pump your own water. You have nothing tied into anything. You can be arrested for being
Ladies and
off-grid.
gentlemen, welcome to land of the free and home of the brave.
How does that work?
Or should home of the overtaxed?
It works better than the Ukrainians getting their country taken away from them
Oh,
by the bully next door. But
That was-
outside of that,
that was just a matter of time anyway.
That's
But
the-
think about this, though. Think about this.
I
The government
saw
says
the
you can-
opening ceremonies.
yeah.
But there, it was all over the ring that didn't work. Putin was really pissed off.
Somebody disappeared.
Oh, somebody disappeared.
The ring failed.
Oh
And
no, that guy was in charge of
the
that ring.
guy that it kind of like the DirecTV. The guy that did the rings, brother was the guy that and it just a whole domino effect. And then Ukraine. There we go.
That's so. Do we want to get into
That was actually some of my news.
Syria and stuff
Because
too, or-
I have
You have to ask the question. You ask the question 1,000 times. Is it our job?
no?
well, I
What's
have
he supposed to do about it?
Well, I have two stories about that, and one of them was a Russian state agency new head. He's, I guess, a news state agency. Basically, said the USSR, excuse me, Russia could turn the United States into radioactive ash. They actually said that, so it's a state-controlled agency. So I'm assuming Putin said, just tell them we can kill them. And
Mutual devastation is still.
It's still.
We're fully capable of it.
I don't- it's,
Yeah.
It shouldn't get to the nuclear talk. It is interesting, however, how our president, he stamps his feet and holds his breath. But what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to
sanction them.
I mean, that's the question. What are we going to do?
At this point,
And why is it our responsibility to do anything?
I actually think
And the
if
fact
Kennedy
of the
was
matter is that we live in a country where you're going to say, "What are we going to do about that?" When the actual fact is, when you look at we as a people, we are war weary.
You got that right.
We don't want to be going to war again. We don't want to get But there is a segment, and this is this question of nationalism, patriotism, etc., where you go, war is not doing us any good at the moment. It really, really isn't. Okay, I've got to fix that. Those people aren't supposed to call me anymore. I don't live there. I don't live there anymore. Don't call me
Don't
anymore.
call. I can't substitute.
It's got more to do with it than just that. But the fact of the matter is, and I hate to, but we can't go running. I mean, Putin wants the Cold War back. He wants Russia back. He wants Russia to be a world power again. Mm-hmm. I don't know that anybody's ever going to be a world power like they were a world power in the 20th century. Mm-hmm. There's going to be different world powers in the 21st century.
Yeah,
Go
because
figure.
it's a whole different venue, should we speak. I mean, the fact is, we go,
world.
yeah,
Completely different world.
yeah, it's completely different. I mean, we could go to war over the internet. I mean, there's a possibility something as crazy as that.
At this point, I'll be honest, I don't know if the idea of world power, quote unquote, the idea of the 20th century world power, I don't think that's going to be around. I really do think at this point it is as tacky as it sounds. It's the battle of the ones and zeros. I really do think at this point, coming forward, it's gonna be different. Maybe it's small terrorist organizations. Maybe I just don't think it's gonna be a world power because
I want to step back for a minute.
Here's the reason.
All right, give your reason. I want to step back here.
The reason why I say that is because with the internet and with as many agreements and the stuff we have these days, I don't think world power means as much when you can have a little country take on a big country.
So let's I want to take a step back for a second and talk about what our president said to this fact that this was voted on by the people that live right
With no choice on the ballot.
well, all right, but so
I know details.
that's European. That is normal.
That's European.
That's European. That's normal for them. The ballots are fixed already. It's not a big deal. What did Russia really want to get? They wanted to get all those missiles that are sitting over there. You know?
It's not.
What they really need, and this is the ultimate. This is actually where there is the comparison to 1939 and World War II is that Russia is landlocked, and they need it.
Exactly.
They need a way out, and the Ukraine is that way out. And besides, Ukraine's got oil and gas up the yin yang, and a way to get it to the rest of the world and make money.
And it's also not our problem.
Well, it is and it isn't, but it's not our problem, I think, in the way that we, I don't know what McCain wants him to do.
Well,
we've moved airplanes into NATO countries.
We have a destroyer and an aircraft carrier that we've moved closer in. And I don't quite understand this, where President Obama stands up and says, we're going to add more sanctions to the Russians.
Right.
Huh? What are you going to do? What, are you going to stop selling them soap?
And it's not like
they've got an awful lot of resources all on their own.
Well,
they don't have as many as you think. But the fact of the matter is, and I understand, how sanctions, but what are you going to do? You're gonna throw up the Cuban Missile Crisis. You're going to put up a blockade.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to do?
We're going to park our Air Force carrier, so many miles off their shoreline.
And stop. I mean, that or go in and decide it's time to go to war, to start free, and let's go to the Ukraine. Let's start it there.
Well,
and we'll put troops on the ground, and we'll drop. We'll do all that stuff we always talked about doing. We'll get into it in the Ukraine, and there'll be strategic nukes fired within a month.
So are we not looking at, if your scenario's right, are we not looking at probably one of the most frightening situations that's happened in the last 20, 30 years then? Are we not looking...
Frightening?
Are we not...
If this is the case,
80 years since Hitler made his move and with the... I don't see appeasement. I don't see this as being a Neville Chamberlain. But then again, I don't see...
Well, I mean,
the world is kind of weary of war, and the world's, a warrior for the last 100 years.
Putin is saber-rattling, John. He's saber-rattling. He's out there saying, I can do whatever I want. We started this conversation with the fact that he wants Russia to be a superpower again. He wants the Ukraine to get the natural resources and the missiles.
My question is, do we bomb him? What do we do?
Well, and that's a question. Do we... I hope the hell we don't bomb them. I mean, because we know where that's going to lead to.
What's it going to lead to?
World War III.
I'd like to live a little longer.
It's gonna lead to them opening up the age on the draft to take Jonathan.
No, they won't take me. I'm too physically screwed up.
World War II, it was up to 35, so you got to get a couple of years more on you.
Well, no, I'm physically, health-wise, I'm not good. They wouldn't take me.
You're one or the other. But that's the whole thing. I mean, be very careful. And again, this is when I say, be very careful what you ask for, because if you want us to retaliate and take, what do you want to do? You want to take over? Let's say we take over Grenada again. Okay. It is on a much greater scale, but the fact of the matter is the Ukrainians obviously weren't against it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here is the problem I honestly see. If we go into World War III, they will win.
No. Here's the thing. Nobody wins.
No, well, both of you are assuming it's going to go nuclear. Both of them don't want to happen. That's the old saber rattler. What's going to happen is you're going to launch troops. It's going to bankrupt the United States because we've been in war for the last 15 years or however.
Well, I don't think the Russians haven't been too.
Well, I guarantee that United States is going to die.
Now,
time to wave the white flag.
How are we supposed to enforce, if you've got a president says we're going to do these things, and at the same time you've got a Senate that's saying, hey, we want to reduce the number of our standing troops. Is there not a major cutback coming up?
Not just the Senate, but we have a Department of Defense that says we want to cut back number
so
of
how
troops.
do you, well, a conspiracy,
how do you do all of this?
Conspiracy theorists says this is the United States laying down, being the lamb, to come take us over.
Well, no. I look at it this way. Should we take all those guys that have been trained to come take your guns? that are ready for urban warfare. We got a trained force to sign them up and send them.
Oh, I honestly don't think I think if this happens, if we go to World War III, I guarantee you're going to get knocks on your door and says, Mr. Charney, we're coming for your guns. I guarantee United States will change. The day that happens, I bet it'll be martial law because there's going to be a bunch of people bitching.
Why would it be martial law if we're going to war in the Ukraine?
Because nobody in the United States I don't know anybody who thinks this is a good idea. I don't know anybody from liberals to ultra-liberals to ultra-conservative both say, keep the fuck out of there. It's not our problem.
Well, it's not a problem. At the end of the day, it isn't our problem. But we have been and this is what kind of got me when you look back in history. These treaty organizations, these interconnectivities, in which we find safety in peace. Okay, that when it really comes to a war deal, it's kind of like, you're really going to back him up? I mean, because he went in and grabbed Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just a blatant, we're here, you're out, we're in. Well, done deal, signed, sealed, delivered. Was it planned weeks? Of course it was. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But the question and that you have to ask as a civilized world is, can somebody just go ahead and do this? Is that okay? Now, what you can do is economic sanctions against them. I don't know how well they're going to work, but as a world community, you've got to cut them off from some things. And
they're going to cut
the thing is, Russia is considerably more vulnerable than the Soviet Union was.
According to the Washington Post article, leave it as you may, they say the Russian is also facing expulsion from the Group of 8 leading industrial nations as really,
G8 does anything anyway.
I really just, I'll be honest, at this point, I'm really tired of the United States' role as world police. I don't know why anything bad happens. The first people do is go, United States, help! I mean, honestly, let Europe deal with it.
You remember a number of episodes ago, we got into the discussion about isolationism.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're back to that same kind of discussion. We're at, do we isolate ourselves from this stuff? Do we stick our nose into everything? What does a country as a whole feel? I mean, there's no referendum or there's no way of voting. In other words, Mr. and Mrs. America, how do you feel? Should we get involved with this or not? And we're leaving that to our representatives, in which we already know don't give a damn about us anyway, for the most part. So I don't.
No, they don't give a damn about it. In this case, it's not the American people that's on the line. It's look, there's something we can hoist Obama on the petard for because he's weak, because he's this. I have to admit, and that I like it when the president says my job is to get us out of wars, not to get us in.
True.
And we certainly have had a philosophy of getting in, because it's at the end of the day, it's good for business. Halliburton made out like crazy on 2 wars in Iraq. People have made out financially, and there's billions of dollars in cash that have disappeared in Iraq, and they ended up in somebody's bank account somewhere.
Absolutely.
But is it good for the American people? Obviously not.
Well, I think you answered correctly when you said we're war weary. You're absolutely right, and we are. I'm tired of us, going into every country and trying to push our weight around, saying you have to live like we live.
Well, and if I were you, I would rather push our weight around and see us do something about Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and New Orleans. That, where we murder one another, Americans, at a wholesale rate.
See, that's.
I love this. I love this one. I'm going to read this. The United States is third in murders throughout the world, but if you take out Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and New Orleans, the United States is fourth from the bottom for murders. Believe it or not, these 4 cities also have the toughest gun control laws in the United States.
Well, of course they do, because the tougher they, it's like the old, your mom and dad told you not to go to the swamp.
Yeah.
It's over there.
Yeah. It's
I'll be there in
I mean,
about 15
I think
minutes.
I thought that was a beautiful
Well,
statement.
this-
I thought that was, hey, guess folks, look at the truth here.
Well, this
but I don't
comes-
want to get into guns today.
This,
no guns.
this it still comes back, and for some reason, the United States is a very strange thing of caring what Bob the Hittite does 5,000 miles away compared to what Bill, who
Well,
lives in
again-
Chicago, who lives in a poor neighborhood, who has to hit the deck every 5 minutes. We don't care about United States citizens because apparently. And we don't care about all those cities. We don't care about the economic environment. We don't care about the school system. We don't care about the tax system. We don't care about the freedoms being removed. But we care what the Hittite does 6,000 miles away who's just trying to live his own life.
I don't know that I'm always good with you saying Hittite because it's got other connotations to it. But yeah, I at this point in time, if you really want to know, I'd rather be my brother's keeper at home than be my brother's keeper in Afghanistan.
It's just
I think that's well said.
Well, it's just like you know, the United States helping, like sending millions and millions of dollars to foreign countries. You know, what I'm totally for helping other country, but it's like, hey, how about giving them a 10% of that and let's send it to, I don't know, the ghettos somewhere and build schools.
So now you want to throw money
the nail
at
on the head. The process of getting the money to where we give it to.
Yeah.
There are so many hands of graft along the way.
Yeah.
All right. People are dependent on that money because we've created a bureaucracy. We've created a system where we give people money.
Well, how about
and now if we don't give them money, China does.
I would seriously
Let
rather
China give it to them.
I would
I'm happy with
seriously
that.
rather build the bridge in the middle in a city, you know, fix a bridge that hasn't been touched since it was made in the Depression than say give money to, I don't know, the Afghanistan people. I realize there's a lot more to it than what I know. It just seems when the infrastructure, school system, economy, there's so many things in the United States that need fixed. There's got to be other ways to do things besides putting feet on the ground and saying you're doing what we want. Because it's not worked for us for the last 60 years.
Well, I do think there is some humanitarian aid that we do need to give to certain locations.
Well, no, I completely.
Okay,
I completely agree. What I'm saying is Korea, Vietnam, Iran, Contra, all this.
South Korea is doing just fine without us. They don't need us.
Well, all this stuff, the last 60 years or 70 or 80 years of foreign policy has done us no good. It literally got us where we are today because of our piss poor understanding of
The
people.
Vietnamese basically like us.
Oh, we're all friends now. It's all kissy-kissy. Everything's
And
fine.
I will tell you where I now live in the San Fernando Valley. It's like wonderful. I love Thai food.
Oh, yeah.
I have my choice of Thai restaurants and sushi, Thai food.
Don't do this to me, all right? I love where I live, but the restaurants aren't the best. I know.
Hot and sour soup. Well, the only problem with when to get restauranting with Sacramento. I mean, you've got some great gourmet restaurants and up by you guys, Sacramento. The problem with Oriental food there is the Chinese have been there for over 150 years, and unless you go to I tell people that Sacramento area is a very good place for sushi, and they go. And I go, but there isn't a Japanese person that runs a sushi restaurant anymore. So, it's a front for something else. But it is because there is a wonderful, fresh Vietnamese, Taiwanese influence with great foods, great flavors.
Well, so my question, to go back a little, is I really do think
political again. I was talking food with you.
Yes, I'm going political because I want
to go back to it.
Well,
then I want to.
Well, because
this last thing.
I think I really do think our foreign policies in some ways have.
Is it something I said?
No, we're here. Well, we're doing just fine.
I want to know, as far as what you guys said is, I can switch topics. I mean, I can go from my favorite movie because I'd rather talk about movies than politics. But I really do think that our foreign policies got us this way where we are. Because even in World War I, we got stuck in because of that. We got stuck in World War I because of foreign policies.
I'm going to dial back.
Oh, okay.
Set Wayback Machine in 1900.
We lost all audio. So much for Skype.
So
look at. let's see. We'll let him jump back in here real quick.
So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, am I completely wrong by saying that I think the United States got us where we are because of our... I think it comes down to not understanding...
Whoa!
I'm losing your audio again.
Well, it's not on our end.
Well, I really do think...
Hold on. There you go.
I really do think it comes from our not understanding people. You know, I think not understanding how their society works. Because on the Middle East, you know, that's what I've heard from people who've been there. It's like part of it is the misunderstanding between the American way of life and, well, their way of life. Whether we like it or not, you know, I think a lot of our problem is just we just don't sit and think. We just react.
Well, that may be the case. I'm really looking forward for 2016, to be honest. One last thing I want to bring up.
I wonder why.
What's going to happen then?
Yeah, gee, you know what's going to happen then?
Hillary's going to win.
You know.
Oh, Lord. She's got so much baggage. That woman will never get elected.
I just don't want to hear it. And I do think she'd get elected. But that doesn't mean I'm tired of having elections where it's, well, you can't vote for that other nutball.
Yeah, I know. It's the worst of two evils, right? Isn't that what we always talk about?
I think for
okay, go finish yours, and then I got to wrap up.
I was going to say, I think for Hillary, her greatest strength and her greatest weakness is her husband.
Now, she's got it so bad on her own. Did you know, if you read Hillary's history a little bit, she couldn't even pass the bar in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Billy Jeff, though you may not like him, and currently is someone that the right is deciding that they're going to attack. Probably the smartest politician in the last 50 years, and more of an asset to Hillary than he's ever been a liability, even with the little girl in the dress and the cigar.
Right. Oh, no doubt about
Bill
it.
Clinton is smooth.
Hey, and people
Obama
still love
doesn't
him.
compare at all to
this day.
Clinton.
People love Bill Clinton. They still think he was, the best thing since, sliced bread.
But it also helped the economic boom time that he was president. I mean, I think that helps a lot.
I wouldn't even mind going, he came here to Sacramento to speak on this lecture tour that these guys do every year. I tried to get in, I couldn't get in, and it was more money than I was going to spend anyway. But I'd be interested to hear him speak.
They found out he was a gun owner. No!
I found, maybe that's what happened.
Governor of Arkansas, I think, probably owned a gun.
Yeah, he probably did. Wrapping this up, one of the things that the government's sticking their noses into is the shield that reporters have with going to court and turning over who are their confidential, I'm losing my...
Confidential sources.
Confidential sources.
They don't have to, right? Right now, it's not required.
Now, here's what's happening in Congress. What's happening right now is they're trying to say who really is a journalist and who isn't.
Oh, that's right.
See,
bloggers don't count.
They're trying to do it. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case now. It has to do with a little bit of how long you've been doing it, how many shows or articles you've written.
I've done enough.
Well, our show, believe it or not, under the guidelines, in this situation, should we get into investigation into a story or something, we would actually be shielded under what the Congress is saying that we fall under it. But there's a lot of bloggers and others that wouldn't. So I find that kind of interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
You're saying for once that the government's actually being a little forward-looking and saying, "Hey, you're all not, because you're not a print journalist, you're a journalist."
They're recognizing the fact that journalism isn't only the Washington Post or the New York Times or whatever it may be. Believe it or not,
I'm actually surprised.
You can be a journalist like we are. I mean, the fact is, we take stories. We mull them over. We mash them up. If we're wrong at the end of the day, we're wrong at the end of the day. We'll come back and we'll argue it again the next day.
We're more of like a meta-journalism.
It was like last night when I got that story about the radiation leak. First thing I wanted to do is get into it more and find out what really happened. A non-journalist type person, they wouldn't care. They'd either panic to the story or just move on to the next thing. We fall into it. And so...
Old Guy Tech for the win.
Hey.
Well, and the other part is you have a pretty smart network of friends. So if you put it out there, more than likely somebody come up with a second source.
And that's what we do. I try to get help from you and Jonathan and Ann and Wendy and whoever to help us discuss the issues.
Not gonna happen.
Disappointed, no phone calls today. Can't tell how many people are watching. It's too late to call in today. Hopefully next week we're going to try to keep pumping these out every Wednesday, depending on John's health. Hopefully he gets better and gets working, and we'll keep this thing going so he's not so damn grumpy.
And next week, want to go back in politics history and talk about Teapot Dome.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, folks.
Now, because I don't live in Kern County.
There you go. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching the show. This is Rob with Old Guy Tech TV News 44. We'll see you next time.
Bye.